I'd been sitting in that sterile glass conference room for 20 minutes before he finally said it. Some of our legacy staff. The new director began, his voice slicing through the air like cold steel. Represent outdated systems. Obsolete thinking. We can't afford sentimentality if we're going to modernize this company. Then his eyes locked on mine. Obsolete. It wasn't just a word, it was a blade. The room went still. I could hear the hum of the air conditioner. The muted thud of someone's coffee mug against the table. I felt the blood drain from my face, my fingers tightening around my pen until it snapped. He smiled faintly, a predator's satisfaction flickering behind his corporate calm. Everyone looked down at their notes. No one said a word. Everyone except her. Sophia. Our new marketing strategist, my mentee, the woman I'd taken under my wing 2 years ago. The same woman who'd once told me I was her professional hero. She stared at me for half a second before turning her gaze to him, lips curling in the faintest complicit smirk. That's when it hit me. It wasn't just a professional ambush. It was a setup. For 20 years, I'd built this company with the founder Henry Walsh. I'd been there when the first prototype failed, when we didn't make payroll for 3 months, when we celebrated our first $1 million sale with champagne and paper cups. And now I was being erased publicly. I stared at the director, Lucas Ward, 34, Harvard MBA, charm polished to a mirror shine. He'd been brought in by the board to lead innovation, a euphemism for cutting costs and replacing loyalty with algorithms. What stung more was that I'd vouched for him. Henry had asked my opinion before hiring him. He's sharp, I'd said. Ambitious. Maybe too ambitious. I'd smiled then, not realizing how true that was. When the meeting ended, I stayed behind, pretending to organize my notes while everyone filed out. I needed a moment to breathe. Lucas stopped by my chair, lowering his voice. Don't take it personally, Evelyn. The industry's changing. We all have to evolve or step aside. The way he said step aside, it wasn't advice. It was a verdict. As he walked out, Sophia brushed past me, her perfume familiar. Amber and something sweet. She didn't meet my eyes, but I noticed her phone screen light up in her hand. A text from Lucas. Can we talk after? My office. Close the door. My stomach twisted. That night I sat alone at my kitchen counter, the city lights flickering through the blinds. I scrolled through old emails from Sophia, thanking me, praising me, asking for help. Then one sent 3 weeks ago. Lucas says we should modernize the client strategy. I told him you might resist, but he said we'd convince you. I'd brushed it off at the time. Now it read like a confession. I clicked deeper: presentation drafts, revised slide decks, meeting invites that somehow never reached me. My name had been systematically removed from every key project. They hadn't just sidelined me. They'd erased me. The next morning I arrived early. The office was quiet, only the hum of machines and the smell of burnt coffee. Lucas' office light was already on. Through the frosted glass I could make out 2 silhouettes. His and Sophia's, standing too close. Her hand rested briefly on his arm before she pulled back. Something inside me fractured. It wasn't romantic jealousy. It was betrayal, raw, professional, intimate in its own way. She hadn't just chosen ambition over loyalty. She'd used everything I'd taught her against me. At the all-hands meeting that afternoon, Lucas presented his new vision. Every slide, every diagram, I recognized my fingerprints all over it. The strategies, the analytics, even the phrasing, I'd written them months ago. He'd just changed the cover. Brilliant work, Lucas, someone said. This could transform our brand. Sophia's face was radiant. She didn't even glance at me. Then the door opened. Henry Walsh, the founder, stepped inside. 80 years old, silver hair, slow stride, but a presence that silenced the room. He'd been retired for 6 months, out of sight but not out of reach. Didn't mean to interrupt, he said, his voice rough but steady. Just wanted to see how my company's doing. Lucas smiled, nervous but polite. Of course, Henry. We're discussing our new strategic direction. Henry nodded. That's funny. It looks a lot like Evelyn's old proposals. The room froze. Lucas blinked. Sophia's jaw tightened. I recognize her phrasing, Henry continued, walking closer. You can modernize all you want, son, but you can't steal a woman's work and call her obsolete. A murmur rippled through the team. Lucas stammered something about collaboration, but Henry raised a hand. I built this place with loyalty, he said, his voice thick with conviction. And loyalty doesn't go out of style. He turned to me. Evelyn, you're reinstated as Chief Strategy Officer. Effective immediately. The silence was deafening. Lucas's mask cracked, his composure slipping. Sophia looked at me then, really looked. Her eyes shimmered with guilt, but I didn't return her gaze. I just gathered my notes, the same ones they tried to bury, and stood. Later in my office I stared out the window at the rain streaking the glass. My reflection stared back. A little older, a little worn but not obsolete. There was a quiet knock. Sophia. I'm sorry, she whispered. He promised. Stop, I said softly. He promised you the world. I know. I used to believe people like him too. She flinched, tears brimming. I didn't mean to. You did, I said. But maybe someday you'll learn what I did. Ambition built on betrayal never lasts. She nodded, broke in, and left. When the door closed, I allowed myself a deep breath. The betrayal had burned, but it had also purified. I wasn't obsolete. I was the foundation they'd built their deceit on. And now, with Henry's trust restored, I intended to rebuild. Not for revenge, but for renewal. Still, as I turned off the lights, I couldn't help but smile faintly. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't payback. It's endurance.